play the foghorn. Gotta go back to screen share, brother. There we go. You kick it off, Aaron.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put into our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience on October 16, 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel that this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight's recap will start on page 68, starting with Now About Sex, and it will end on page 69 if we want. Are there any announcements for the good of AA?
Hi family, my name's Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and so glad all of you are here tonight. And Lppbbsg is going to happen in just a few days, so just come on over to my house and we'll have a real good time. We will be having our 4-step workshop next Monday night. Same room, same time. If you've never been to it, come and join us. If you've been to one and you still need 4-step work, please come join us. If you think you know everything about the book and how sobriety works, guess what? I don't. So chances are none of us really do. So come in and join us and learn things, as they say on NCIS New Orleans. And we will be having a group conscience later in the month as well, but I forget what date that is, so check your emails for updates. Also, if you're new to this group and you're not a home group member, but you like what we have to offer and would like to become a home group member, all you have to do is send me or Trish a message saying you want to be. All we need is your sobriety date, phone number, and email address. And that's it for announcements. And good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment with the monks, followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Aaron. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware. Nope, that's me. Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing, is to not distract yourself or others. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring those cute little monks in to do what the monks do so well. Enjoy your time with God, folks. And please, if you would like, please join us in our family's fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Amen.
Yiddy.
And now it is time for our secretary's report, which is Kat. So take it away, Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat, and I'm an alcoholic. I am your Piglet secretary. I have asked Lisa to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Lisa.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic, working with an untreated alcoholic. The success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we please have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
I think we've all been here before.
Okay. And then the recovered alcoholics, please. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? Okay.
6 months last week.
6 months last week.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Boy, I wasn't prepared for that. Hang on just a second, Lisa.
Okay.
Congratulations.
A momentary pause, folks, while I pull up a chip. As soon as my computer will cooperate.
Will I continue reading?
No, 1 second.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, and it's such a pretty color too. There you go, Lisa. Congratulations on your 6 months.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations. I don't see it. There it is. I
Congratulations.
saw it for just a flash.
Yeah, it was up there. It's purple.
Okay. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal, posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you, ladies, for your service tonight. It is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
And from Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being, if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask you to protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 7, and tonight let's take a look at Tradition 8. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank you, Pit Chips, for doing the traditions.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Terry, recovered alcoholic, aka Pickle Chips. And I didn't really have time to do the history of Tradition 8 because I'm filling in, because I'm a real big history buff. But I'll give you my experience with Tradition 8. It states Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional. but our service centers may employ special workers. That's the short form. The long form of 8 reads, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional. We define professionalism as the occupation of counseling alcoholics for fees or hire. But we may employ alcoholics where they are going to perform those services, for which we might otherwise have to engage non-alcoholics. Such special services may be well recompensed. But our usual AA 12-step work is never to be paid for. Okay, so my experience with this is I belong to a club where I live in Garden Grove, and we had paid employees, but the club is a separate entity from AA. So at the club, we had an alcoholic member of the club that was served as our custodian, and he was paid to do that work, because if he didn't do it, we'd have to hire somebody else, from outside to do it, like this talks about. We had a manager of the club, and she got paid by the dues. The seventh tradition went to pay for these services, for the rent of the rooms and the manager, and we had a coffee bar. Those were usually volunteers, but there was somebody that ran the coffee bar that was a paid employee also. But what this is about is people that are getting paid to do 12-step work. And I've known 2 people in my years in AA that have done that, even though it clearly states it in the tradition we're not to do that. And this one guy, Jeff, went all over the country, financed by these desperate parents of young men that needed help. So Jeff got paid handsomely to go and either stay with a family or get a hotel and get paid, or have the hotel paid. And he walked these young men, never young women, but it was always a young man, through the steps, and was paid handsomely for it. And another guy I know did the same thing. And both of them relapsed and overdosed intentionally. So they didn't have a happy ending by making the 12th step their job, their occupation. Did not work out well at all. And I always think of that when we do this step. Because we can hire, I know in central office, and it talks about it in the history part of these steps, is, they had to have a secretary to answer all the mail that it was getting when the big book came out and when Jack Alexander's article came out. They had to hire somebody and pay her to answer these letters because they were so overwhelmed with the number of letters coming through. And that's okay. She was needed for that job and she was paid to do that job, but she was a non-alcoholic, but she was not doing 12-step work ever. So we're to give away what we have, and when we sponsor people, we don't get paid in any way to do the steps with people that are coming into the program. We do it willingly and lovingly, and we are richly rewarded, not compensated, but richly rewarded with the friendships and the love and the laughter and the tears and all the things we go through when we sponsor people, but never to be compensated for it. So I'm glad this step is in here because, like I said, I've seen it firsthand where people did this and got paid for it, and not a happy ending. So anyway, I wish I had more history to tell you because I think it's just fascinating, the early pioneers of Alcoholics Anonymous and how wise they were to know all this stuff and to write it down and give us their wisdom like this, because we need it. We're alcoholics. So anyway, thanks for letting me step in for Alyssa tonight. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Terry. Well done. Very well done. And we appreciate you stepping up at the last minute. And now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of things said in meetings that can't be reconciled with our program as it's laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's one of those things that we hear. It's my opinion that I don't know anything about the Big Book, but this is the way I do it. And William is going to come in and share with us. You're muted, William. Come in and share with us from page 19 in the first paragraph and tell us what the book has to say about such things.
Thank you for allowing me to do so. My name is William Applehorn. We have concluded to publish in Anonymous Volume 74, The Problem as We See It. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem. And that is in the book.
Thank you so much, my friend, for being of service tonight.
As we study, please make use of the pen, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 68, starting with Now About Sex, to page 69 if we want, and Kenny's going, read tonight by Kenny, followed by our study portion, read by Nancy on page 69, starting with God Alone, and ending on page 70 with That Being So.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back where Nancy starts with the study portion tonight. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply one-sentence answers split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light on which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what we just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, please by all means feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, well, Aaron is going to do the pickle dance in the screen tonight to get your attention so that you'll know that your time is up.
You'll know it when you see it. However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics, which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, sponsor. Please do not be offended when we cut the conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous: sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous
And I
group.
will get there soon, but Jamie would love to tell you how we arrived at this point.
I was going to throw you to the wolves here, brother.
I know.
Well, I think
I'll
it's
be ready next week.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. So listen closely then. Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And this group started January 7th of 2020 as a bricks and mortar meeting right here in my house, and with myself and 12 other alcoholics. COVID hit, and we dispersed for a while, and we came back. I discovered Zoom, and we came back as a hybrid meeting, and then eventually, alcoholics being how alcoholics are, they all went their separate ways, but we continued right here in this room, which has been a great blessing. This is a 94-week book study. We are in our 3rd season and our 4th year of doing this study. We started at the title page with the very first promise in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And we go through the preface, the forewords, through the question format, just like we do tonight. Everything that we read in its entirety, we go through the question format. We visit the spiritual experience 3 times in the process of the book study, because we're directed to, because it gives us one of those funny little asterisks telling us to go to the spiritual experience. And then after we hit page 164, we spend, I want to say, about 7 weeks on Dr. Bob's nightmare, and through the questions format as well. And then we do 2 weeks on the traditions with the questions format. And week 94, we wrap it all up with a standalone night on the spiritual experience, revisiting it one final time so that we can talk about nothing but spiritual experience. And why do we do that? Because it's very important that we might want to recognize whether or not we're having a spiritual awakening or spiritual experience in our life. And then when we're done with that week, the following week, we will kick off the next season all over again. Part of the blessing of all of this is that we are of service in the service structure of Alcoholics Anonymous as well. We go to assemblies, we participate. All of you who are home group members have a voice in this group, and you get to vote on the way that this group operates. The other thing is obviously we have developed a website which is posted in the chat, and we have the podcast, but we also now use YouTube as a casting platform as well. So that's how we got here, and the last 4 years have been an amazing journey, and God has given us the blessing and the resources to continue to focus on our primary purpose of this group, which is to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And on that note, I'd like to welcome in Kenny to read our recap tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny. I'm an alcoholic. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there. But above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It is so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinion running to the extreme, absurd extreme, perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the trouble of the races are traceable to sex cause. They think we do not have enough of it, or it isn't in the right kind. They see significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare. The other would have us on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiters of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We hardly be human if we didn't. We can do what we can do about them. We review our conduct over the years past. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom have we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we try to shape a sane and sound idea of our future sex life. We subject each relation to the test. Was it selfish or not? We ask God to mold our ideas and help us to live up to them. We remember always that our six powers were God given and therefore good, needed to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. We had, whatever the idea turned out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so, in so doing. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about the specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it.
Thank you so much, Kenny. And I forgot. I cheated Aaron out of his last line. We already have two hands raised, folks. We could use about another 3 or 4 to be question answers tonight, if you would be so kind. And Nancy, come on in and join us, please.
Nancy Alcoholic. God alone can judge at such a situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Suppose we fall short on the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we have going to get drunk? Some people tell us so. But this is only half true. It depends on us and on our motive. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to a better place, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lessons. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to do it. We are not generalizing. These are facts out of our experience. To sum up what was said, we earnestly pray for the right idea, for guidance in a questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield with being heartache, If we have been thoroughly sure, if we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as a sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten our past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And batting order tonight will be, and thank you for everyone who's raised your hands to participate. Batting order tonight will be, I'm not sure if it's Gypsy Pickle or if it's Pickle Chips, but it'll be one of them. Nancy, Linda, Lisa, Stephanie, William, and Kenny. So if everybody could unmute, please. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and go right to Linda because nobody's in Trisha's chair right now. So Linda, the first question is going to come to you on page 69. Who can judge our sex situation?
God alone can judge our sex situation.
Thank you very much. And Nancy, let's go to you. Two-part question, starting at the top of page 70. A, what may be desirable? And B, who will be the final judge?
Counsel with persons is often desirable, but will let God be the final judge.
Thank you so much. And Lisa, coming to you, and Aaron will be coming in with some comments as well. Lisa, coming to you, what have we come to realize?
Realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose.
Thank you so much. Stephanie, welcome, sister. What do we avoid?
We avoid hysterical thinking or advice.
And the first comment, it has been a long-standing practice in our fellowship to avoid giving advice unless we are that person's sponsor. What we are directed to do is share our experience and knowledge of our program and how God does for us that which we cannot do for ourselves.
Thank you, Aaron. And William, coming to you, brother. If we fail, are we doomed to start drinking? 2 sentences, please.
Suppose we fall short of our chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk?
Thank you. And Kenny, coming to you. What do some folks think?
Some people tell us so.
Thank you very much. And they're still not back in the chair, so I'm going to go back in my normal rotation. Nancy, coming to you. But is that true?
What number are we in?
It'll start what, but this is only.
Oh, but this is only a half truth.
Thank you. And Linda, on what does it depend?
It depends on us and our motives.
Thank you. Lisa, if we have a slip in our sex conduct, what attitude had we better have?
If we are sorry for what we have done, and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson.
Thank you. And Stephanie, coming to you. If we are not remorseful and we continue to do what we want rather than what we know we should do, what will happen?
If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink.
Thank you. William, is this someone's theory?
We're not theorizing these facts.
Okay. Nope. Went too far. Just we are not theorizing.
Okay. We're not theorizing.
Kenny, coming to you. How can we be sure?
These are facts out of our experience.
Thank you.
And 2 comments. We must continue to remember that this text is based on the experience and knowledge of its authors, not their ideas or opinions. And 2nd comment is the following is the 3rd prayer for our sex conduct.
Thank you so much. And the ladies are out. Let me drop their hand. I'll make it easier on myself here. So, Nancy, coming to you. To sum up about sex, what do we earnestly pray for? 2 sentences.
To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right idea, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing.
Thank you. And Linda, if sex continues to be a problem, what are we told to do?
If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others.
And comment, please note that we are in the process of taking the first action step to recover. The first 100 tell us that it is not too soon to start trying to help a newcomer. The first 100 did not waste time in taking the action. They did this quickly and thoroughly. Should this be a part of our process?
And Lisa, coming to you, what do we try to think of?
We think of their needs and work for them.
Aaron, can you let whoever's in the waiting room in, please?
Yes.
And Stephanie, what does this do?
This takes us out of ourselves.
Thank you. And William, 2-part question. A, it will quiet what? And B, if we yield, what will it mean?
It quite the imperious urge. Going to yield would mean headache.
Thank you. And Kenny, if we have been thorough, what have we done?
We have been thorough about our personal inventory. We have written down a lot.
Thank you. Nancy, what have we listed? Nancy?
Okay, we did
What have we listed? We listed.
listed.
Starts with we have listed.
We have listed. What the heck? Can you pass me on? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We have listed. We have begun. We have listed. No, pass me.
Okay, Stephanie, can you take that question, please?
We have listed and analyzed our resentments.
Okay.
Thank you. I got out of order. William, I'm just gonna come to you. What have we begun to understand?
We have begun to understand. We have begun to comprehend their brutality and their fatality.
Thank you. Kenny, we have commenced to see what?
We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness.
Thank you. Nancy, we are promised that we will begin to learn what?
We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people.
Thank you. Miss Linda, coming back to you, two-part question. We have a list of who and be, and we have promised that we will be willing to do what?
We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can.
Thank you.
And coming in with a comment, again, we are promised that the willingness we need for step 8 begins as we follow the directions for step 4.
And Lisa, coming to you, my friend, what do we read in this book over and over?
In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves.
And comment, is this a self-help program or a God-help program?
And Stephanie, coming to you, of what should we now become convinced?
We hope you're convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him.
Thank you. William, coming to you, if you have taken the 3rd step and the 4th step, where are you?
If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your most handicap, you have made a good beginning.
Thank you. And Kenny, you get the final question of the evening. What have you learned?
That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself.
And the final comment, the truth will set us free, but until it does, it will beat our brains out.
Boy, no kidding. All right,
Yeah.
everybody, you can remute and lower your hands, and then Burning Desire, come on in and raise your hand. Lisa, go ahead, kick us off. Or did you just not get your hand lowered? It's okay, you're already there going, so come on in.
Oh, God. Help me. I like this reading. I was underlining all through it. You know, I liked it all. My brain is just not here tonight. You know, in the beginning of the meeting, I took out a bunch of prayers and I did some praying, and it really helped me for what I was kind of going through right before the meeting. And, you know, where was it? We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. And more, I notice, you know, when I do that, I feel better. I don't understand it, but I'm seeing it. You know, I see it in my calmness. I'm remembering to do my breathing and all the things that are helping me. And the times are getting like shorter. You know, I don't sit and my crap for too long. You know, I also liked, you know, the stuff I'm going through, you know, if we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, you know, we will believe we'll be forgiven and we'll have learned our lesson. You know, sometimes I don't think I'm learning it because these same type of things keep happening, and you know, it's kind of hard for me to see. That's why I try to reach out, because I question, is it my lesson or is it the other person's? And so and I get kind of wrapped up and confused. But even then, I start to try to analyze it, and I gotta stop doing that, and I gotta keep giving it to God. Because if I think, if I just look at, if I'm pretty much at peace, and willing to do the next right thing, I'm going to be okay. And I'm doing what God wants me to do. When I'm jumping into whatever, all those awful feelings and behaviors, I gotta get with God. And I wish I didn't even have a minute between them. I wish I could just go right into it. But I need this constant reminder. And I'm glad I have this meeting. And today I got my large print big book delivered, and I love it. And this is my favorite book now. When I'm struggling, I get what I need, pages 60, 62, pages 82 and on, and I know them by heart now. I used to have to look forever to find them, but I open right up to them now, and I'm grateful for that. It's one day at a time. There's an everyday thing, and it's not just praying in the morning anymore. It's all day. When I get tripped up, that's where I go. He's my best friend. That's where I go for my answers. I have trouble waiting, the pause and wait for the right thought or action. But I'm getting there. And that's about it for me. I hope I made some type of sense. Thanks.
You did just fine, my friend. So glad you are here. Pinky, welcome. You're muted.
Hi, Alyssa, recovered alcoholic, and I'm so thankful for that today. And I've made a list of my grocer handicaps, and I continue to do so. And I'm so thankful for that 4-step process today, because that saved me from myself at least 100 times. Because from the moment my eyes woke up, what I had planned for the day, how I wanted to feel, it wasn't aligning. And so instead of sitting, a year ago today, I would have pulled that comforter back over my head and told you all to F off. I don't feel good, and I'm just going to sulk. And that was killing me. I wasn't drinking, but I was drier than a frickin' bone, and it was miserable. And today, I was able to, they say trudge this road of happy destiny. And I was able to do that through every opportunity that God gave me. Because when I do that 4th step, I identify what's blocking me. And I ask for that to be removed, but I just can't expect that it's going to disappear. I have to put in effort too. So what does that do? In my head, I'm thinking, well, of course God's going to give me an opportunity. Do you really want your selfishness removed? Here's an opportunity. Be unselfish. Be helpful to others. And so I can look back today and see where the old Alyssa would have just mucked it up. But the recovered Alyssa trudged through those situations and talked to God in every moment that I felt myself, and even moments where I didn't feel myself, pulling my will back. And when I say pulling my will back, I was getting angry at situations that I couldn't control. I had to check myself. You have no control over this. Why are you getting upset? You're burning energy foolishly. And those are reminders that I have to give myself. But when I reach to God and I talk to him, okay, what am I supposed to, I know there's a lesson here. What is my lesson? And through all of this, because I could, spend an hour talking to you about where all the obstacles were in my day and how I changed it and just the perception. And then the miracle that I saw in the situation. But the biggest one was just now. As you see, I'm walking. I came home tonight from appointments, being out of the house all day, and to no power. They said it would be restored at 7:15. 7:15 came, and I got a text saying 11:15. And it's not in me to be walking over to the park with the kids at 8 o'clock at night. But yet, here tonight, I was. And Aaron stopped at the play place. I said, okay, I'm going to walk over and get our mail, because that was right across the parking lot, like another 100 feet. I could still see him. See how I still have to justify that I could see my child. There's work to do there too. But as I was getting the mail out of my mailbox, behind me I heard a voice saying, I can't get up, help, I can't get up. And I turned around and I saw the lady, and I said, do you need help? Are you stuck? And she said yes. And she couldn't see me. She thought I was her daughter, because when I got over there, she was just embarrassed. That's all she could say. And I said, don't be embarrassed. It's okay. I'm here for a reason. I can tell you that God's got your back. Don't be embarrassed. I just want to help you get up. I mean, she couldn't get up. She was out there with her scissors cutting her grass. She's got the best yard in our neighborhood. And so because of this way of life, because of that change in perception, and because of these tools, I was there at that moment, right? And there was other moments throughout that, but that one was a big one to close out the day for me. Because if the power wasn't out, I wouldn't have walked over there. I can't imagine myself walking over there, because I would have been with you guys doing my commitment at 7:30. On my laptop at my desk. So, that's what this 4-step process does for me. It takes me out of the way. I still get in my own damn way sometimes, but less today than a year ago, because I wasn't picking up tools a year ago. But to know, and I don't always know why God is having me walk through something, to strengthen an asset, or to remove a defect. And I don't always see the results, but tonight I did, and I don't know, it's amazing. This way of life is beyond everything that I've dreamed. Is it fun to look at the nasty, ugly parts of me? No, but they're there. So am I just going to keep covering them up and, let their nasty roots stay there? Let me get them out, because, God's will is just, it's amazing. It's just unexplainable. The peace and the joy I feel after a day that's just gone no way like I had intended. And, the fact that I could barely get out of bed this morning, to now, for anybody that doesn't believe that there's something greater than yourself out there, just, God did for me I was there, and I was putting in the work, because I was, identifying as I was going through, but God brought me to AA. AA brought me closer to God, and I learned this in here. It's not the God of my understanding today, it's the God of my experience, and we're pretty tight. Let me tell you, I can feel him. And I don't know who gets that tingly, chilly feeling, that, that sense when it's 90 degrees outside and you're sweating. So that is God. And I'll take that every time, because there is no drink. And I never did a drug that would bring me to this level, but there's no drink that can give me the high on life that I get today from applying these tools and living life on life. God's terms and being in God's will. And that freedom came from doing the 4th step. So I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to hold on to that tool because it saves me from myself every single time. I love you all. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Pinky. Glad you made it. Larry, come on in, Scuba Pickle.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. You know, I've not got a whole lot to say. I talked about, you know, quite a bit last week, but I did want to mention a couple things that one is, you know, the big book mentioned I think 2 times, you know, 2 times it mentions a time that we will most likely, almost for certainly, get drunk. One is resentments. Resentments is the number one offense for us alcoholics. It will take us out. And during our 4th step, we went over our resentments. And we come into our sex inventory here, and we read that if we skip over this area of our life and we don't do it seriously, if we don't learn the lessons of not being selfish and not being self-centered and changing how we do some of the things that we do in this area, and it teaches us not only in this area, it teaches us how to do it in the other areas of our life, because it goes over it so strongly. But it tells us if we find ourselves slipping and not and doing something out of character, and we're not sorry for it, and we keep doing it, then we most certainly will drink. And it goes on and says, this is not an opinion. This is out of experience that we have found. And I think that's interesting. When the big book tells us that we will most certainly drink again if we don't take care of things in self-centeredness and selfishness. And sex is one of those areas. And I guess I'm grateful that maybe this is the one time that I was grateful that I came in to AA as an older person. You know, I sometimes really have compassion for young people that comes into AA. You know, I look back and, you know, as a young person, and I think, wow, you know, when I was young, with all my hormones and everything going on, you know, it would be a lot tougher to be unselfish and not self-centered in some of the areas that I would find, you know, as I was dating and I was going out. But AA has a plan, and it takes a higher power, and it takes a power greater than ourselves, but it is an area that every one of us has to deal with, because it's an area that is dangerous for alcoholics. And I think that's noteworthy. The 2 areas that most can take us out: resentments and our sex conduct. That's all I got.
Thank you, my friend. Good to have you with us tonight. and you never answered my text that I left you the other day. So chat.
I started to, and I was so busy, and then it was late. I'm sorry.
It's
But
okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay, well, answer it for me. Xavier, come on in.
Hey, Xavier, covered alcoholic. So glad to be here. Yeah, chapter 5 has always been my favorite by far. Out of all the tools in the toolkit, like 4-step inventory is my favorite. It's helped me the most. It's the most effective. 10th and 11th-step inventory are great, but 4-step is like where I, not only if I'm doing a 4-step, but more importantly for me, like if I have a big resentment, I really have to go in. It's great to have that 4-step inventory. And it really, the magic of when I do the mechanics and I, put the story on with pen and paper, or in the privacy of my mind with my higher power. And then I get to the 4th column and I look at my mistakes, where I was selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and pride, and I write, and it's always amazing, like, what comes out. And often how that resentment will just suddenly go away. And it'll go away not because I pardon, but because I see things differently. And it's always really, it's just one of those things I don't understand how it works or why it works. It just works. And I'm very, very grateful. I have that tool in my tool chest. It's something I'll continue to use for the rest of my life. So it's, for me, it's a really, really powerful chapter, between the 3rd step, and the actor trying to run the show instead of the director, and how I really, really, really see myself in that on a daily basis. And then in a 4th step, when I write all these resentments out and sex inventory and my fears, I get to see on pen and paper my life put out there, and how when Mini-Me's running the show, how ineffective it can be. And I start to see patterns of the same character defects, popping up over and over and over, and manifesting in these different resentments and these different problems in my life, but, I see my same character defects, so it really sets me up for 6 and 7. And then I see the futility of, Mini-Me trying to run the show, and I think that really helps me with step 3, when I can, it's not theory anymore, like it's really my story that I put out. We get into that in step 5. So it's really, I always love this process. I always loved how, simple it can be, yet how deep it is. I've said this before, but I see the Big Book as like a Simpsons episode. A 3-year-old can really appreciate Simpsons as a 43-year-old for very different reasons. And I feel it's the exact same way with the Big Book. It has layers upon layers upon layers, and at the same time, there's a beautiful simplicity to this. So that's all I got. So I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Good to have you with us tonight. Always a joy to see you. Linda, come on in. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic, and I like what we read today because it's getting to the nitty-gritty. It's getting to the root of the problem, making us look at ourselves. And I'll just put it on myself, It says it, we got to swallow some big chunks of ourselves, the reality. If I don't have any self-awareness, I'm not going to think there's a problem. First I have to be able to be aware of it, then I have to be able to admit it, then I can work on resolving it by reaching out to other people. How do I resolve this? This situation that's going on in my life, how can I resolve it? And nobody's an expert. It says that people can be fanatical just as they can be reckless, so I have to find a balance, and I really have to take it to God. I really do. I have to take it to God. I have to understand my mistakes. It says it here about our mistakes. It says it here about how we, like they say, don't poke the bear. It says it right in here. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom have we hurt? Are we unjustifiably arousing jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where will we fall? and what should we have done instead. We got this all down on paper and looked at it. And I was in a relationship with someone, and they were always doing that. They were always doing that. And it let me know they had a lot of insecurity. They had a lot of insecurity, and they had a lot of mistrust. And it was so ironic because it wasn't me, the one that was cheating, it was him. So a lot of times our character defects and our demons, they come out in different ways. They come out in a lot of different ways, you know, and things that I wouldn't do that I know is childish. And if I'm secure in myself and I'm not paranoid and I'm not mistrusting people, I won't do these kind of things. But then again, I won't do these kind of things if I'm not acting out myself. I remember I was on a temporary position, and this lady kept talking about people were stealing and this and that, and when it all came down to it, she was the biggest thief in the office. You know, so we have to be careful when we point our finger. We have to be careful when we're doing things, because we're basically revealing to other people who we are. You know, and I found this out in AA. I found out a lot of things in AA. You know, people sharing their experience and what's going on, because I'd be like, I'm questioning things, and I'm not going to run a race, you know, like the horse with the carrot in front of them. My attitude is, if you trust me, you trust me. If you don't trust me, then you don't need to be with me. And if I've never done anything to cause you to feel that you can't trust me, then there's no reason to accuse me. And there's no reason to try to create something. Sometimes it's in here about real or fancy, about things that go on in our mind, you know. And, you know, at times we have to understand some are sicker than others. You know, there's things that have happened, things that go way far back into the childhood, you know, things that go deep, maybe what we saw in our household, you know. And when I was in therapy, I went over that, and I asked the therapist, and she said, she said, we all have two sides. She said, I don't like to call it the good side, the dark side. She said, I don't like to call it that. She said, I call it the side that we don't want to discover and look at. You know, and that's what they say right here, swallowing big chunks of ourselves. And if I'm not a person that I have done a thorough fourth and a fifth step, and I have not accepted myself, if I'm still trying to live up to these society and what other people think, and I'm trying to put on a facade that I'm this really good guy and this and that, and I don't do this and that, if I'm not just honest with who I am, I'm going to have a lot of problems. I'm going to have a lot of conflict in my life, you know. And my therapist had pointed out to me, she said, some people don't know themselves. And she, it's funny, I think she must have did the 12 step, because she said something about the 12 steps. She said, don't you have a fourth and a fifth and a sixth step? And I said, yeah, we do. I said, yes, we do. And she said, apparently he hasn't, you know. And she said, apparently he hasn't gotten any therapy. He hasn't done deep dive, you know. And she was telling me about that. She said, you have to be totally honest about yourself and who you are. I remember there was one guy that I was dating, and he said, let me explain something to you. He said, I will tell you this. He said, I do not want to get in a relationship. I will see you when I see you. He said, and then that's it. He said, I cannot commit. He said, I cannot commit right now. I respected that man more than the other person that I had been with that, lied and said he wanted to be in a monogamous relationship, and it wasn't even like that. He wanted me to be monogamous, but he wasn't going to be. But the other gentleman, and that's what I'll call him, that was honest, I can respect him. I'm friendly. I'm not involved with him, but I'm friendly with him to this day because he was honest. He did his fourth and his fifth and his sixth step. And he was honest enough to tell me who he was and what he wanted. So then I can make my choice whether I was going to accept that or not. You know, I remember one guy was sitting in a meeting, and he said he cheated because he didn't trust anyone. And he also said that he didn't care. He would lie to get anything. He'd tell you he's this person and that person. He said he lied so many times to get jobs, to get in relationships with people, to get this. You know, he did what he had to do to get what he wanted. And then that goes back to here in this book, in this chapter about the honesty, the selfishness, the harm we do to other people. You know, and it all breaks down to that, to me, the I. You know, I want more, I want this, I want that. The feelings of entitlement. You know, I'm not entitled to hurt another individual. I'm not entitled to rob anyone of their peace, to rob them, as like I was saying last week, of their health and their safety. People have a right, they have a right to be safe in a relationship. You know, recklessness and unmanageability in your sex life causes people a lot of problems. Nobody deserves to go to the doctor and be told that they have a venereal disease. No one, I mean, they don't deserve that, or other things, because another individual wants to be reckless. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't go into that. I'm not going to go into it. I got to stay into AA. But if you're honest, you won't run into those situations. That gentleman was honest with me, you know. The other one wasn't, you know, and I had to find out, well, why one person can be honest, one person can't. And my therapist told me, some of us know ourselves and some of us don't. Some of us have done the work. We have done the deep dive. You know, sometimes you got to go to war with yourself. You got to pull out the ugly part. You got to go into the haunted house, the fourth step. There's a murder here. There was a this here. There was a that there. There's a child locked in the closet. There's ghosts banging on the door to get out. There's skeletons. You know, and once we can clean up that haunted house, we may not clean up the whole haunted house, but the majority of it and the most biggest defects, then we can be at peace. And I remember I was watching something, and it was a show, and it was about this lady, and I didn't know that eating, that's an addiction too. You know, I didn't know that. And one person was like, oh yes, it is. And it's satisfying to the person. It is satisfying. It's comforting. And these people that are reckless in their sex life, that's comforting to them. That fulfills something. You know, I had one lady tell me in AA when we were doing a fourth step, she said, what about the 10-speed bike with the different gears? She said, what have you been running on that one gear? You never tried the other gears. She said, you never tried to explore your life to understand there's so much more to you than that. She said, some people are stuck in that mentality, and that's all they know, and that's all they're going to do. And they'll never, you know, get to anything else, any other level, any other spirituality, you know. And I don't want to put anyone down about that, you know, all that lust is just of the lower nature. But to me, and this is just my spin on it, it is. You can't stay stuck in that. You just can't. It's so much more to life. I like what it says. When we plunge ourselves into helping people, we can get out of ourselves, out of that I gotta have more and more, you know. Understanding that the beauty of helping another individual, the beauty of taking someone to a meeting, buying them a big book, buying them the Back to Basics, taking them to, and I go to a step workshop every Sunday, you know, and showing people, you know, you have hope. Everyone deserves redemption. We have all done things. But we don't have to stay stuck in it. We can come out of it. Man, I've done so many things in my life because of this fourth and fifth and sixth step. I've gotten through so much fear, so much sloth, so much self-loathing. You see, if I criticize someone else, it's because that's what's in me. If I compliment you, that's what's in me. The minute I open my mouth, you're going to know what I'm about. And like they say, give a person time, they'll show you who they really are. You know, and that's so true. I didn't like that, but it's so true. So for me, I got to work on me. And, you know, once you read this, how it works, and even into action, it teaches you how to understand, and then you understand why people do the things they do in the mentality. We're not other people's psychiatrists, but believe me, it is better to understand than to be understood. Because the more I understand people, then, you know, the more I understand myself. And then I don't have to be critical or judgmental. And then I can help them. And I can show the young ladies in the rooms, you know, we have a better way of living. We can be women of dignity and respect. We can hold our head high. There's so much more in life. We don't have to abuse ourselves. We don't have to have anyone else abuse us. We can, you know, we can rise above. And that's, to me, that's what recovery is about. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Linda. Good to have you. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. And the passage you were looking for, Linda, or referencing, is on page 66. and I'll just hit on it real quick. In this state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had the power to actually kill. And it's talking about resentment. And again, in tonight's passage or reading, it talked about we have listed and analyzed our resentments. So again, we touch on it. Tonight is the final night of this chapter, and there's two things that we have learned how to do in this chapter, and only two things. While this chapter in the beginning on page 58 and 59 gives us the presentation of the steps in their entirety, it only gives us the direction of how to take steps 3 and 4. That's the only thing this chapter does. And it gives us the prayers that we will use, the actions we will take, and the promises that will result from saying the prayers and taking the actions. So this sex inventory part is a vital part of my recovery. I had problems with relationships all of my life. Was sex involved in many of those relationships? Yes, but not all. But this particular sex inventory is not about the act of sex or what anybody's fetishes or kinks or any of that might happen to be. It's not about that. What it is it's about relationships and how we operate in those relationships. Let's set the other person aside. Okay, yeah, maybe we need to take a little bit of a look at the other people, and if they're abusive, well, we certainly need to recognize that. We get to set boundaries with that stuff and say, no, that's unacceptable to me. But I need to take a look at what my actions are in these relationships. Good night, Nancy. I need to take a look at what my actions are in these relationships. Here again, it's not really about sex, it's about how I interact with those who I am involved in relationships with. Many of us use sex as a weapon, as a manipulation tool to get what we want, or as a state of bribery, or many things like that. And I love what they say, we do not wish to be the arbiter of anyone's sex life. We want to stay out of that controversy. And I agree, only God alone can judge our sexual situations. But here's the deal. If I don't do this inventory, you know what's going to happen? Let me hold it up here in the screen. I'm going to drag every new relationship and bring my emotional baggage into it. Because I'm going to bring into that new relationship about 14 or 15 other relationships that I have never healed from. And sooner or later, because you do something that reminds me of her, even though you may not be her, but it reminds me of her, I'm going to start beating the hell out of you with my emotional baggage. So in order for me to live free and happy and to try and be peaceful in my part of this relationship, I have to go through this discovery process to discover what my own truths are. Your truths are for you to deal with. And here's what I don't get to do. I don't get to beat the hell out of somebody else with my emotional baggage or my defects of character. It's inappropriate to do so. And if I'm turning around and beating somebody else up with it, then I am not taking the actions that I'm supposed to take for me to heal and recover from all of that old, nasty, emotional stuff. You know, suppose we fall, let's move on to our sex ideal. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but that's only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. You know, one of the things that we do in the sex inventory part in our 4-step workshop, which I posted in our chat, if you've never been to it, come join us, because it's the most thorough 4-step workshop I've ever had a privilege to be part of. But what are my motives for getting involved in the first place? Oh, she sure was cute. You know, people complimented me on how my boyfriend or girlfriend looked. All of this stuff. All those things that feed and build the pride and ego, which are so dangerous to me. So, the other thing that I have to look at in all of these relationships is, how did it end? What were the main points that we fought over in a relationship? Sex was probably only part of it, but it was also probably things like politics, family, how to raise the children, religion, financial matters. Those are all things that I can encompass into this and take a closer look at. I am on a fact-finding mission about myself, not the other person. This is my inventory, not theirs. So, when I go to that ideal and I ask God to help me mold the ideal, I know when I'm doing something wrong. I know when I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. And the truth is the emotional pain that causes not only harms me, but it also harms the people that I'm involved with. Not to mention the innocents as well. How many of us have gone through our lives and gone to our buddies at work and bitched about our wives or our significant other? You ain't gonna believe what she did. Is that dragging those people into my emotional drama? And is that harmful to them? I absolutely believe so. How many times do we drag our families into it? Our mother, father, siblings. You're not going to believe what they did to me. Well, you know, it's not their issue, and they're going to have opinions on it, but most likely they're not going to have solutions for it. Not to mention the kids. How many times have we fought in front of the kids? I have this rule that I live by. No fighting in front of the kids. Because what that does is that gives the children power to get away with whatever they want, and they will play one parent against the other. Because kids, their sweet, innocent little souls, learn how to manipulate at a very young age. I would imagine if all of us were honest in this room, probably every one of us learned how to manipulate and get what we wanted from a very young age. I know I certainly did. So I have to take a look at me, and I mean, to this day, I still ask God to show me what the ideal and pathway that I should take in my life, you know, because the last thing in the world that I want to do is harm somebody else with my stuff. That's the last thing in this world that I want to do. The result of which has been a blessing. There's something else really didn't talk about in this, but I've got to have the spirit of forgiveness in my heart to those who have hurt and offended me as well, you know. And to those offenders that do unforgivable things, I have learned how to forgive. And that is, night Mary, have a good night. It is absolutely vital to my own recovery, my spiritual, physical, and mental well-being. It's all part of my emotional sobriety. And then there's another part of it that we don't look at, but it's all part of this inventory. How did the relationship end? You know, oftentimes We don't generally shake hands or kiss each other on the cheek and say, "Okay, have a nice life. I'll be in touch," right? I mean, yeah, I've been in relationships where we agreed we would part as friends, and it got ugly, and it got nasty, and it got hateful, and I don't like that kind of drama in my life. It has no place in my life. However, I can tell you from my own personal experience that taking a look at myself and seeing where I was wrong and where I had done harm has allowed me to make amends with people from 40 and 50 years ago. And today we have good, healthy relationships that have nothing to do with sex, by the way, but we certainly talked about that in the amends process. But we have good, healthy relationships today where we spiritually feed one another and encourage one another to follow what God's will is. What a great way to close out this chapter. I think it's absolutely appropriate. You know, if Bill would have started off the inventory process with sex inventory, there's probably not one of us that would be here tonight, because we never would have made it that far. But here again, it has given us a very clear-cut pathway. The prayers we'll use, the actions we'll take, and the promises that will result from using the prayers and taking the actions. It really doesn't get any simpler than that, but what happens is we run it through my head and I go, oh my God, I got 349 people I have to do an inventory on. Really? It really isn't that complicated. It's absolutely not. I know sponsors that tell sponsees, if you don't have 300 people on your resentment list, it's not good enough. I think that's bad sponsorship. Because the truth is, I know there's a few of us in here that have only had to have 2 or 3 people on their resentment list. You know, I am not writing the full volumes of the entire collection of the Encyclopedia Britannica here. I'm just simply trying to find out the truth about me. When I recognize the truth about me, I can live in a solution that is so spiritual in nature that I can heal and overcome anything. I am not a victim anymore. I'm not even a survivor, I'm an overcomer, and the way I became an overcomer is through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and for that I am very grateful. I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. Yiddy, you ready to read us out?
Absolutely, thank you.
You're lucky I didn't call on you to talk about the sex inventory.
Thank you.
Love you, brother.
I love you very much. Yeah. From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you so much. And, you know, folks, there's going to be a lot of people who die from untreated alcoholism tonight. Probably about 263 here in the U.S. 95,000 this year in the U.S., and about 3 million worldwide. You know what the real tragedy of all of it is? Is many of them have been to Alcoholics Anonymous and know what we have to offer, but never had the willingness to follow the pathway. So we're all here because somebody prayed for us. So let's take a moment to pray for somebody else, and we'll close out in true pickle style of all holding our hands up together in the screen. And here is your moment. Thank you. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you. That was a really good share, Jamie. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I like that. Yeah.